This is the broadcast for April 16, 2019. Withdrawing water. Shape and form or dissolution grieving into shadows. Crisp, unaltered rivers or filthy rags of frost. Theater in the dark square or crisis informed by the ages. Our homeland is invisible and remote. If it is near, then not our own. Encroaching on freshwater stores are farm waste runoff, landfills, and coal ash disposal sites. A new national assessment of water testing found that coal ash contaminates groundwater at 91% of coal power plants. The worst contamination, according to the analysis, was at the San Miguel Power Plant, south of San Antonio, Texas, with 12 pollutants above safe levels in groundwater. The report covers 265 existing and retired coal plants, comprising over 550 individual coal ash disposal ponds and dumps. Contaminants contained in coal ash include selenium, mercury, cadmium, and arsenic. At one Memphis site, according to the report, arsenic levels are 350 times higher than drinking water standards. The site is 5 miles south of Memphis, and the contaminated groundwater sits above a deeper aquifer that the city uses for drinking water. Flooding in the U.S. interior continues to intrude into sources of drinking water. The National Groundwater Assessment estimates 1 million private wells are at risk of contamination in 300 counties across 10 states. The immediate concern is bacterial and industrial contamination carried by floodwaters from flooded wastewater treatment plants, septic tank systems, or animal waste from farms. Pesticide residues, oil, and gasoline can also be mixed into the waters. Well waters should be tested. The presence of microorganisms like E. coli and parasites like Giardia and Cryptosporidium can cause serious illness to the very young, the elderly, and immunocompromised. Some areas under particular scrutiny are Superfund sites, which spread toxic substances when inundated with floodwaters. The EPA is monitoring 7 sites across Iowa, Nebraska, and Missouri, states that have experienced major flooding recently. 2 Superfunds have been hit hard: Nebraska Ordnance Plant, a former munitions production plant, and Conservation Chemical Corporation in Kansas City. The Nebraska Ordnance Plant has its soil and groundwater contaminated with potentially carcinogenic substances like trichloroethene or TCE, as well as explosives. Due to the floods, TCE removal wells temporarily shut down, but are back up and running now. In Missouri, the Conservation Chemical Corporation's soil and groundwater are also contaminated with carcinogenic chemicals like benzene and TCE. The EPA accelerated cleanup operations in response to the flooding and is extracting more groundwater to keep up with the flood waters. Another site raising concern in Missouri is West Lake Landfill. This unlined mixed waste landfill has been shown to contain radioactive waste. Although the landfill hasn't been impacted yet, residents worry, and for good reason. In North Carolina, one single leak at a Duke Energy site spilled 39,000 tons of coal ash into the Dan River, coating some 70 miles of the water body with toxic chemicals. And during Hurricane Florence last year, multiple coal ash pits were overwhelmed in North Carolina, forcing Duke to admit that chemicals probably entered the Cape Fear River. Water sources near unlined waste pits are especially vulnerable. As of April 4, the EPA says there have been no toxic releases at any Superfund sites impacted by the recent flooding, and the agency has not issued any public health advisories or alerts. But sources of health risks extend beyond Superfund sites. Flooding in Missouri has impacted about a dozen public drinking water systems and 6 public wastewater systems. When flooded, these can introduce sewage and fecal matter into communities and drinking water systems. Under these numerous challenges, the U.S. thoroughly heaves as it struggles to protect the precious water. Only a small amount of Earth's water is fresh, so in many humble plots, citizens wait to regain their breath.